Chief, good to see you. Welcome to Upfront.
Good to see you too. Thank you, man.
Let's start with reckless driving. A recent op-ed I read described it as a city gripped by terror. Is that a fair characterization?
I will say more there's frustration, a constant awareness of what is going on in our city streets, but I also see a lot of energy behind solutions. Being a part of a recent reckless driving town hall with the faith-based partners, working with our community members. I know that we have done a number of outreach with various community stakeholders, but also the creation of the traffic safety unit, well received by the community in regards to seeing active enforcement going on a regular basis in regards to this reckless driving issue.
When you say active enforcement, is that increased enforcement?
Well, I will say that this is a consistent enforcement. This is where we are taking account of the reckless driving in the entire city. We are being mobilized based off of data, based off of requests that comes through our traffic safety unit website, mpdtsu.org, and that we are being responsive to the community needs of what they see, because I always say policing is information-based, based off of what we receive from our residents, but also, again, looking at the data, looking at traffic accidents, looking at issues of, crashes and whatnot.
The West Allis mayor recently came out with a proposal and said, let's increase the fines 50-fold up to $10,000 for reckless driving. Is that a solution?
I would say that's part of many different offerings of solutions. One of the things I never want to take pride in is that enforcement of citations and thinking that that's going to be the all-encompassing solution. One of the things that MPD really adheres to is the 3 E's: education, enforcement, and engineering. Obviously, MPD takes on enforcement, but education is also just as important in regards to not only our young adults being able to learn how to be great drivers, but also in regards to reminders of traffic safety and ensuring that people are being aware of the concerns in the streets, but also engineering. I know our traffic safety unit officers are looking for opportunities to how can we change the streetscape, slow cars down, being a part of that working partnership with the Department of Public Works in regards to ensuring that we are slowing people, having that traffic, slow down, and ensuring that we have more safety for our pedestrians and also for our motor vehicle.
Some council members are debating or starting to debate a 20-mile-per-hour speed limit in the city. Would that work? Is that something you're getting behind?
Again, there's always a lot of different solutions. I know that it's always good to take into account of all the different offerings. I don't believe there's any one solution. I mean, you can have a sign out there, but are people paying attention to the sign? The biggest, I think, influence or impact is we as a people understand our responsibility. If you're in a vehicle with someone who's driving fast, slow down. Understand that we need to kind of monitor each other. So we as the Market Police Department is part of one solution of myriad of solutions that I believe that we should always be embracing whatever that can help us impact what we're seeing this in reckless driving issues.
Some state lawmakers have reintroduced legislation again to allow red light cameras. Are you lobbying for that, and does that have any chance in your mind of passing this time around?
Well, I hate to use the word lobby, and I know there's more of someone who actually has that title and certification, but I would say I support it. I believe, again, when you have a number of different workable solutions, we should be behind that. Understand that, yes, we see young adults out there involved in this reckless driving, but there's also older. I think that there is some issues of certain parts of our community who don't believe in stopping at red lights or ensuring that they're slowing down. So traffic safety lights like that will be helpful in regards to identifying, and also reminders that the city of Milwaukee is taking this seriously.
The city is also facing historic levels of violence, including homicides. Why is that?
Well, I hate to speculate, Matt. I believe that it's important to understand that we've seen a number of different firearm issues. We look at some of the causations, but the number one that we see from our data is unknown. Number two has argument that where I talk about the poor conflict resolution, unfortunately mirrored with the availability of firearms. So we've seen that those arguments are really going deadly in regards to that. You might have a disagreement, but turning to firearms as the necessary tool to resolve that disagreement, we need to work on that in regards to what can we offer better in regards to You might have disagreements, but it doesn't have to turn deadly.
In terms of 2021 homicides within this past year, what is the department's solve rate?
Oh, I believe we're hovering a little bit over 40%.
Is that acceptable?
Absolutely not. I mean, one unsolved homicide is never acceptable. We should always strive for 100%. We do have a capacity issue. One of the things that we're working on in regards to building a more robust investigative team, ensuring that we have all hands on deck in regards to being able to be part of those investigations. Again, using the resources that we have, not only from the department, but working with our public, because at the end of the day, we need information coming from the public in regards to what's going on, who's doing what. So building that community trust allows us to have better relationships, to have higher clearance rates.
Some Republicans have said MPD and the city have demonstrated that they cannot solve this problem of violence alone. So they've proposed whether it be sending in State Patrol or National Guard to assist. Would you accept that?
Well, one of the things I always understand that there is a team approach to public safety, working with the community, working with our partners. I mean, I'm part of the Milwaukee County Law Enforcement Association. We work with a lot of our law enforcement partners, so it's always a good thing to work together. So I'm always embracing teamwork. I know we work with federal partners, we work with state partners. We've been doing that, and that's not something new in regards to, again, like we have the Reckless Driving Reduction Initiative. That's county sheriffs, that's State Patrol. We've been doing that for a number of years. So having these robust relationships, I'm very supportive of, and believe that's the only way that you're really going to have true impact in public safety, working with residents, working with our federal, state, and local law enforcement and other community stakeholders.
Is that different than this idea of deploying the State Patrol or the National Guard to the city of Milwaukee, do you believe?
Well, I would think that's pretty huge lift. Again, how much resources you believe in. That is a question that I say is unknown. We have really great men and women in the Milwaukee Police Department. I mean, we're the largest agency in the state. Understanding that we need to, again, work on what I say is the trust and legitimacy. Being able to build relationships with not only our residents, but with government entities and also community partners to really have a robust response to public safety. We're not there yet. We're working on it, but we're not there yet.
Let's broaden this out for a second. What do you believe is the image of MPD within the community?
Well, I will hope that there is a, well, I say hope, there's hopefulness. I believe there is a cautious belief that we're going in the right direction. We do have things that we need to atone for in the past in regards to incidents that has happened in the city, but also nationwide, that brings a darker cloud to the MPD.
Give me an example.
Well, I will say that if you want to talk about George Floyd, that's a nationwide situation that affected the entire country. That is attached to all law enforcement agencies in regards to what behaviors are you doing to, again, hold people accountable, ensure that they understand the community they serve. And that is a lift that we all have to take in regards to law enforcement across the nation, a reflective look. But again, working towards legitimacy, working towards trust allows us to have a better relationship in regards to information and also working cooperatively in regards to public safety.
How transparent is the department right now?
I believe we're pretty good. I mean, you have our standard operating procedures on our website. You have incidents of misconduct that we place on our website in regards to officers who have had unprofessional behavior. That is also posted on our website. You have our uniform crime reporting numbers that's posted on our website. You have the reporting out of the traffic safety unit, not only from deployments, but also where we've been, how many citations we issue, and have a public-facing contact list of sorts in regards to reporting, in regards to what you see out there. We're one of the few agencies that do community briefings. I mean, just recently, we were the only one. And I think that, again, builds on that whole goal of trust and legitimacy. So have we done everything could we possibly do? Absolutely not. And I believe that we're open to see what else can we do to further our relationships with our community, with our stakeholders, with our elected officials.
You've talked about stop and frisk in this new report that has been out showing about half, 50% of all frisks from January to June were rated, I guess, as insufficiently justified. It's down from 86% the report found. Give me your analysis of where this is and the timeline to get to that 15% per the lawsuit and the agreement with that.
Well, like I said, Matt, and spoke about this earlier, this is a move in the right direction. Are we where we need to be at? No. But I will say this, I think 85% is a great benchmark, but I would love to have 100%. And I believe that when we talk about timeline, it was yesterday. So when we are working towards and seeing, again, positive movement, those are things to celebrate, but you don't rest and say, we're done yet. I know that we have to have a more robust accountability system. I know that we have to have leadership in place to ensure that accountability is in place. The challenge of being an acting chief for so long, that particular type of team wasn't built yet. I'm working on that. And basically, I'm saying that we are improving, we will continue to improve, and I'm sure that we will be in a place better than what we've been before in regards to not only having the reminder that we are constitutionally policing out there, but we're also holding ourselves accountable within the written works that shows that we are.
Can we expect new dramatic, visible changes under now Chief Norman?
I would say the only change that you had is that the interim is taken off and now you have full chief. The behaviors, the urgency, the passion has always been there. So in regards to what you're going to see, absolutely the continuation of what you've been seeing in regards to my role and how I've been behaving in that role.
You're the second black chief in the department's history. What impact, does that have an impact in your mind?
Well, I always like to make the commentary that I am the chief for all. I believe in that we are reflective of a multifaceted community, and it's important that the public knows that. But I do understand the significance of being a black man in this position. I believe that having homegrown roots, being a product of NPS, being a product of our college system within this local town. I mean, right down the street, I went to Marquette Law School, UWM Milwaukee. So that is, I will hope, encouragement. It will show a role model that is positive in regards to that. Look at me and see if you embody that potential of being there.
We've seen a lot of controversy in other cities across the country when it comes to vaccine mandates. Some cities have implemented it for police departments. Just look to our south in Chicago. MPD has not been required by the city at this point. Have you been given any sense that a requirement may come, and what would that do to the department?
Well, the city has put out a mandatory vaccination for the general employees. Working with our unions, we have two. We have the Milwaukee Police Association and Milwaukee Police Supervisors Association. That has already been rectified for the supervisors, still working with the MPA. I believe that we should be vaccinated. I believe that it is important to bring a level of care in regards to understand that there might be loved ones at home who are sick that you don't want to be transferring. You want individuals at work. You want people to be able to be fully engaged. The city needs that. So we're working towards that. We're not there yet, but definitely I'm very supportive in regards to being vaccinated, in regards to being a Milwaukee police officer.
Do you know what percentage of officers are not vaccinated within the department?
Not at this moment. No, I don't.
What's your level of concern over number of retirements and the recruitment efforts when you're speaking broadly?
Well, I'm always concerned in regards to our attrition. I believe that you have to have a certain level of sworn officers to do sworn things. I am pleased to see that we're able to replace those who are leaving in regards to 195 officers. That's not additional. It is almost like water's being poured out and you're pouring a little bit more water in to replace that level of the water. We're still going to be under in regards to what is our authorized strength. I believe there will be another 25 down. So it is a concern in regards to maintaining those services our residents expect. But that's when you come in with civilization, looking at other opportunities to say, how can we still get things done that you don't need to have a sworn officer to do? We are very open to that, have started that process for many different assignments, but we're working also with recruiting more for our community service officers, the CSOs. Those are non-sworn, but they are still being deployed in our community to handle lower level calls. So looking at all opportunities to continue our level of service so that residents don't feel a blip in what they need in regards to the response from the Milwaukee Police Department.
We recently reported on threats targeting election officials across the country, including here in Milwaukee. MPD has investigated some of those. Curious your level of concern over this, and are local police doing enough on this issue?
Well, I'm always careful of saying I'm doing enough because I think that there's always opportunities to improve. I will say this, I would not tolerate that. That is not something that is going to be taken lightly. Those who are involved in those type of behaviors, beware in regards to that. This is not going to be something that you're going to get away with from the Milwaukee Police Department standpoint. Excuse me. It is important to understand that our elected officials, that is a duty that is not taken lightly if someone threatening about them accomplishing their duty there. So that is not something that the MPD takes lightly, and that we take all those type of threats or behaviors seriously.
I'll leave you with this as we look ahead to the next 6 months, next year. What is your biggest challenge?
The biggest challenge that I always feel in regards to the 25 years I've been in law enforcement is continue to build or embrace the trust and legitimacy aspect of what the police department needs in regards to having a robust relationship with our community. The first pillar in 21st policing is trust and legitimacy. And so that is where working with our community, working with our partners, being able to have a team-like approach is really the most effective way of impacting public safety. So working to build that, being able to embody that, to show that the Milwaukee Police Department is interested in partnering with our community, being responsive to our residents, is truly one of the most biggest goals I feel for us to overcome, of changing a narrative that we're not us versus them, it's a we.
Newly sworn in Police Chief Jeffrey Norman. Chief, good to see you. Thank you for your time.
Right, no problem.